Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Now in Massachusetts, you can get your standard driver's license regardless of immigration status. Gather all required documents: proof of identity and date of birth, proof of Massachusetts residency, and proof of Social Security status. Next, register at mass.gov/myrmv for your learner's permit. When you pass, schedule your road test at mass.gov/myrmv and prepare at mass.gov/road test. Register today.
It's Monday, y'all. I'm about to go in the comments so I can see everybody tell me that no audio. Thank you to the Real Boston Media who is in the room. Naraki, thank you. I just looked down. We will not do Elizabeth Warren again. Never, ever again. Good morning, everybody. Today is Monday, July 24th, 2023, and welcome to the Java Cafe. It is Mental Health Monday, and Dr. Brandy is not with us. We are in the process of turning everything over fully to the Davis system, and I think I forgot to send or include them on an email that would have triggered a flyer and things like that. And so I want to publicly apologize to this good brother that I'm getting ready to bring into the room. It is Mental Health Monday, and there is a correlation definitely between the subject that we're talking about today and mental health. We're talking about housing security. I've had the pleasure of meeting this young man some months ago, I think over a year ago. We sat down and broke bread recently, and his approach to community organizing, what he's doing over there at an organization called Gen Unity, is definitely in the vein of being community driven, as this platform is. And so we're going to hear about an event, but we'll also hear more from him about the great things that Gen Unity is doing. And so without further ado, I would like to bring Jaron Chang into the Java Cafe. I think have you been on before, Jaron?
First time. Thanks
First
for having
time.
me.
Okay. You know what? I think it's my memory from Zoom or something like that. That's maybe what it is. But what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. It's Monday, so getting ready to start the week. Excited for it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. As you see, my Monday is getting started in a very interesting way, I think, and I'll check in with you about this. We usually ask folks to give us one word for Mental Health Monday to describe their mental health status in the moment. I will say that mine right now, maybe two words: organized chaos. Man, listen, but please introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself before we get into Gen Unity. Tell us about Jaron and end with one word that you would use to describe your mental health right now in the moment.
Okay. Well, at Gen Unity, we love to start with origin stories. So if you'll indulge me,
go ahead.
I'll spend a couple minutes on that. So I'm Jaron. I'm originally from New York, outside the city. My parents are both immigrants. Dad's originally from China by way of Taiwan. Fled here to Taiwan during the Civil War back in 1949. And my mom's from Malaysia. She's an orphan. She was adopted by a single mom there and made it to the States in the 80s when she met my dad. And I share that context largely because my journey to the work that I do now is wrapped up in this idea of generational inheritance. With my dad's dad, he was born into poverty and got out because of the civil service exam in China and that system of opportunity, right, available at least to him at the time. Whereas in my mom's case, it was the compassion of a single individual that really changed the trajectory of her life. So I think a lot about our work at Genuity is how do we tap into individual compassion to build better systems of opportunity for everybody. But I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what that looked like coming out of undergrad, right? I mean, it's not something that we really are taught, how to drive social change in really powerful ways. I got pulled into the current of consulting. I did some of that work. I joined the mayor's office in Chicago doing economic development policy. And those experiences gave me a really kind of immersive civic education is how I like to think about it. It showed me, one, that there are smart, well-intentioned folks in a lot of these spaces, but there's also a level of disconnect, right, from the community and the folks that are have this lived expertise with the issues that we're trying to tackle together. And so I came here to Boston for grad school, but also really to focus on this issue, right? How do we build this connective tissue between the folks in our communities with all of this lived expertise and the folks in institutions, at least the subsection of whom really want to figure out how to partner with community in more authentic ways, right? And I think that's the bridge that you're working on to create in a lot of ways, Jimmy, and so are we at Genuity. So I won't go too deep yet into what we do. I'll let you bring us there, but that's a little snapshot about me.
Absolutely. And one thing you forgot and thank you for sharing origin and sort of who you are. I like that model. We're going to learn more about Genuity, not just today, but in like the coming months and things like that, because we're working on a project together. But what is your one word for Mental Health Monday? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling centered today. And that's not every Monday, but did my yoga meditation practice this morning, did a little journaling to set some intentions for the day. So feeling centered.
Before 9 a.m. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad, sir. All right. And so tell us about how you took that life experience and then began Genuity. Tell us about Genuity, and then we'll get into the event that's coming up, an opportunity for folks to get trained to be better advocates for themselves and others in the community around something that is so important to mental health, something that is quote unquote a hot topic right now, something is very much needed, housing security. And so tell us about Genuity. We'll start there.
Yeah. So at Genuity, we bring residents together across difference, both those experiencing local issues, we call those folks proximate experts, and folks in institutions who we call siloed experts trying to tackle that issue. So for our housing program, which is launching this September, we're bringing together 50 residents from across the city, the vast majority of whom will have some type of proximate expertise with housing security issues, whether that's eviction, homelessness, transitional housing, just being housing overburdened, which, we're in Boston, so large swath of the population, together with folks working in nonprofit spaces, government spaces, even the private sector, trying to tackle housing issues and think about how to do that better, right? And over the course of 10 weeks and roughly 2 to 3 hours a week, folks are going to unpack that problem together, think about both how people are experiencing the issue on a day-to-day, how the system has been designed, the power structures, the policy, the money, the advocacy that's shaping that system. And ultimately, they're going to culminate that journey in developing their own action plan on how to drive change. And so that's kind of the very high-level snapshot of what's going to happen in our fall program that's coming up on housing security. Our hope is that this gives folks creates the space, right, where probably this group of folks would not come together in another setting, right?
Let me jump in and interject there, ask a question there. When you talk about folks that may not usually come together, you mentioned civic leaders, you mentioned community, you mentioned, advocates. Why is it important to diversify the sort of chorus of folks that are in the room? Why Why do you utilize that model?
Yeah, I think that there's an incredible amount of like community organizing and great advocacy happening within neighborhoods in Boston, right? And kind of within different racial groups, ethnic groups, like within certain kind of class dynamics and things like that too, right? But we don't really have that many spaces where we're actually trying to create this bridged kind of multiracial cross-class community that I think is necessary to really drive change, right? This kind of inspiration for this obviously builds on the work of incredible civil rights activists decades over, right? But we're really trying to think about how do we create a space where we can recognize our shared humanity with each other and unpack these issues and develop a shared sense of understanding and commitment that becomes the basis for doing some really transformational things on this issue.
Not just this issue, but I like the model, and we won't go too deep, but you and I are working with some others. Hopefully, we're getting ready to approach them officially, but we're working with some folks to bring that model into, let's say, the electoral process. This is an election year, and this subject in itself, I'm sure, is going to be a huge issue. This is a municipal election year, and so the issue of housing, I'm sure, is going to come up there. Issues related like mass and CAS. We thankfully had the Office of Housing Stability with us when we were doing the healing tour, and learned a lot and met the folks that actually facilitate when folks are in like public safety situations. And so it is definitely going to be a hot topic there. But with all that to say that Jaron and I will be sharing some more information about some things coming up for this fall. But if you guys did not notice, in the background there, I was sharing the flyer. And if you look in the comments, it is pinned at the top of the comments. There is a link to the program that Jaron and I are talking about right now. Let me just see. No, that's not too much better. So let's stay right there. There's a link in the comments where you can hyperlink to the application. And so again, tell us, I heard you say 10 weeks that you're asking folks to make a commitment. What are they getting out of this? In addition to like systems and structures, and like, what does the average citizen walk away with once they finish these 10 weeks?
Yeah, if you scroll down a little bit, Jimmy,
Yes.
I think those little section of 3, community growth impact.
This
Sorry,
one
we can
right
go
here.
back a little bit
Yep.
up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say
those are probably
slide.
the big 3 things. Also, shout out to one of our community partners for the housing program, Thaddeus Miles. I saw you in the comments.
Oh, Thaddeus is in the room. Okay. Hey, Uncle.
I would say that at the core of it, right, these 3 things: community, cross-sectional, cross-class community that we don't see in other spaces in Boston, right? Growth, the opportunity to really learn about the systems and power structures that we're talking about, and impact, right? Being able to create an action plan. But I think it all boils down to really creating a space for folks to answer 2 questions, right? Why does this problem persist in our community? And how can I do something about it? If you're someone who has been seeking to answer those 2 questions and seeking a community of folks to answer those questions with, this is the place.
This is the place to get your training. And it doesn't only empower the person as an individual, but it helps them help their auntie, their grandma, their cousin that's dealing with issues of housing security as well. And again, the link to the event is in the comments, so you can hyperlink directly there. And I love that you have member spotlights. One of our guests before, who was dealing with issue of housing security, she was dealing with some very I'll just say interesting property managers who will go unnamed right now. But an example of what Gen Unity does is you employed someone that was having a challenge in this issue. And so now, can you talk a little bit about life experience and how that ties into what Gen Unity does and what you do?
Yeah. I mean, I think for a long time, we've seen how much we've undervalued that lived expertise, right? We talk about it as lived experience, or we could call it proximate expertise. And Part of that is an issue of obviously, diversity, equity, inclusion within institutions in order for them to have the folks in the room. But I think there's also, even when folks are in the room, how do we continue to create this connective tissue between the people making decisions in institutions on policy, new programs, with folks in the community who are living that day to day, right? A friend of mine in policy school said something like, a policy is, only good for a set amount of time, right? Then everyone knows the power structures and all adapt to the new policies
to try to work around it.
Exactly. So if we don't have this type of connective tissue that allows us to really iterate and hear, oh, this policy we just tried, it's working, but now it's started to not work. We need to switch it up. We need to continue innovating. If we don't have that level of kind of cross-sectional community, we're going to fail to do that as well as we can. And really, that's what we're trying to work on at Gen Unity.
And it sounds like your belief is in the power lies within, not so much what we're familiar with advocating within. Let me frame it like that. But do you agree that the power lies within the people?
Completely. And I think our entire program is rooted in trying to connect as people first, right? Connecting our common humanity.
That I was going to try to figure out a way to bring that up without going too deep, because in some of your presentation earlier, that is what I heard, that you said you were centered. And just because I have the privilege of being familiar with you and a little bit of the organization, but Gina, I saw her Saturday, and also April as well. And so it speaks to sort of the climate or the environment there. And so humanity, I think, is where we all can center around, whether it's housing, issues of substance use, violence, racial equity, economic equity. Go a little bit deeper as far as humanity in general. I want the folks to hear your perspective on that. You're smiling, and yes, give me the Jaren that was sitting at the when we were sitting at the restaurant.
Well, it's Mental Health Monday, so I feel like if you want to go deep, we're going to end up going spiritual, which is completely great for Mental Health Monday. I think at the core of it, right, there are kind of two different approaches to organizing work, right? One is, we're going to build power, and we're going to kind of apply leverage, and we're going to kind of force someone's hand, which has kind of been a tried and true strategy for a long time. But I do think that there is also an approach that we need to take and integrate into that. That's about how do we also embed this work with a love ethic, not just for the communities we're advocating for, but also for the folks that we're trying to change the minds of as well. How do we create space?
Did you say love ethic?
Love ethic, yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's Bell Hooks' thing. You're much more well versed on the content, Jimmy, than I am. But I think that's critical, right? I mean, I think we've tried the adversarial approach for a long time, and we still need to do it, because in many instances, that's what gets us a lot of the short-term wins. Yeah. But if we also want to build the kind of momentum and this kind of MLK's benevolent community over the long term, we also need to start laying the groundwork for that now, and that's what we're trying to do.
It's interesting because even in the violence prevention model over the past few years, I've heard a lot of folks that are working not just to heal those that are impacted, but they're also working to bring together those that committed the crime or hurt someone. And so I heard something that you said, and I love the way you framed it, those whose minds we're trying to change or something like that. That's a good way to frame it. Not adversaries per se, but they are right, wrong, indifferent. They are partners in this, because you talked about policy, and it's interesting to hear you say that policy lasts for maybe a term, whether it's congressional or whatever, and then all of a sudden folks find other policies or other ways to work around that policy that was maybe just a little bit more equitable. And so I heard that as well. One of the last things I want to get ready to wrap up and ask you about, when you were talking about humanity and talking about housing. It is Mental Health Monday. From your perspective, how much does housing play a role in someone's mental health journey? Yeah,
Yeah.
come, sir.
I mean, kind of hard to put it into words. I'll
Okay.
just, one of our principles at Genuine News, you speak from I, right? And I want to
Yes.
kind of
Yep.
project onto other people's experiences. But I'll speak for myself. My wife and I
Oh, he's about to drop a
just
gem. Okay, Jared, hold on. Let the signal whatever catch up, and then we want to get that whole gem. Somebody probably sent you a text or call you talk about. I see you on Facebook. All right, start over, bro, because I know you're about to slay us real quick. Go ahead.
No, I mean, my wife and I just moved to Dorchester. We had been living in, you could call it kind of like as a resident advisor in like Harvard dorms for
Yep.
the undergrads, which basically for us was a way not only to kind of give back and build community, but also an opportunity to have housing stability. Let's call it what it is. Or I'm in the nonprofit space trying to get something off the ground. My wife is in the social justice space. She works as an immigration attorney trying to help folks get asylum and refugee status. And so having stability, now that we're kind of more rooted in Dorchester, we had the privilege of being able to buy a place because we didn't pay rent for 3-4 years, right? Is enormous. I can't even tell you. I'm trying to express how much that's doing
Your
for
whole
my
body
own mental
language
health
just
right now, but it is unreal. It is unreal. I mean, there's people talk about that kind of transformational experience all the
Yep.
time of like what it means to own something,
Yes.
and it does feel different. And so, speaking from that angle, for myself, I already feel this enormous relief and a sense of embeddedness that it feels priceless, right? And at the same time, obviously, you contrast that with the stats that we know and the experiences in the community of folks that we talk with that are experiencing housing issues, whether that's like poor property management practices to, obviously disparities in home ownership, to discrimination against, folks. The research coming out of Suffolk Law School a few years ago on discrimination against Section 8 voucher holders and folks with Black sounding names in the rental market. And that's actually work that one of our members kind of helps to tackle through some statewide legislation that they introduce as well. So, I mean, there's so much of that embedded in this issue of when we talk about housing security and its effect on mental health.
Okay, I said I was going to let you go. It's 9:26. If you give me 4 more minutes. So I want to start with the question from audience. Well, actually a comment that Thaddeus talked about. And I think to the point of, how can I do this? Thaddeus said that those that do community harm are part of the solution to violence prevention. And when I saw that, with all due respect, I don't want to make a general statement to all developers, but generally speaking, developers have an interesting reputation among maybe some spaces where there's housing advocacy when people say the developers. And so we don't want to make that generally, about everyone. But to Thaddeus's point, to put it in the space of housing, developers and those that are buying property and building, for their wealth advancement. That's going to lead into another question I want to ask you about because you touched on that. But I just wanted to see or raise the point that Thaddeus talked about, the fact that sometimes those that we need to chat with may not necessarily be in the same lane as us, but we have to sometimes cross that highway, maybe go up on, what's the thing, not the U-turn, go up on the off ramp.
Roundabout.
The roundabout,
Yeah.
You could tell you've been in Boston for a while. Go about the roundabout, or what do we say, rotary here? But the roundabout, and come back and sort of recalibrate. And so I just wanted to raise that point. But before I get to my last question, Heidi had a question, and she wants to know, why did you decide? Why did you decide to move to Dorchester?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. Heidi,
Okay.
thanks for the question. That piece is very personal. My wife is part Vietnamese. We want to be close to the Vietnamese community here in Boston.
Okay.
So it's kind of a simple decision for us. And also, I mean, a lot of our work with Gen Unity is deeply embedded in Boston. We wanted to make sure that we are building community in the places that our work is building community as well. So easy answer on that front. And, you know, to Thaddeus' point, I mean, I feel like Thaddeus, you could probably get on here and explain things much better than I can. But I mean, 100%, right? When we think about connecting in our common humanity, as we talked about, right? We know with, you know, a liberation lens, that if folks are doing harm, they're also being harmed. And so they're harming themselves. And so if we really want to think about how do we build a solution, root things in our common humanity, we need to acknowledge that. We need to bring them in, create spaces for them to reckon with it. And, you know, that's essential part of the work too.
Absolutely. Last question. I promise I'll let you go. And folks, I put a couple of questions up on the screen for you to respond to as well, just to get a perspective from where you guys see housing security here in Boston. In relationship to that report that came out a few years ago that talked about Black and brown wealth versus non-Black and brown community members' wealth, housing security, wealth. Close us out with those two topics there, however which way you want to, sir.
Yeah. The stat that I think you're referring to, the like $8 net worth for
net worth of Black
Americans vis-a-vis, I can't remember what the white family net worth was, to be honest, but we know it was somewhere in the six figures, if I remember correctly. I mean, they're so closely intertwined, right? I mean, ultimately what we're talking about with housing security is one critical piece in the perpetuation of poverty, right? And unless we, one, navigate how to kind of remedy and ameliorate housing insecurity in the short term while building solutions for long-term eradication of poverty, we're not gonna, like, the short-term fixes to housing security are short-term. And we need to recognize them as such, and also build towards a world where we're actually creating economic and opportunity generally for people to thrive as human beings, right? And so housing is a critical piece of that. And we're talking about it on Mental Health Monday, so we all recognize that. Yep. But we need to kind of keep that that lens in perspective, right? Our housing security work, and folks who go through our program, which thank you for throwing the program website link in the chat, Jimmy. But folks who go through our program will start to see that too, right? That obviously our housing issues and the solutions that we can drive can be powerful and also short term in the context of how do we build systems, housing, health, food, job opportunity that actually allows everyone in our community to thrive, right? And that's why at Genuity, you know, our vision is really this community by everyone for everyone. That's what we're here to do.
I can't use the acronym I was going to say, it sounds like FUBU, by everyone for everyone. Befe? By everyone for everyone. Befe. I don't know. I'm not going to sit up here and have you sound corny. Sorry about that, Jay. But folks, don't forget, the link is hyper linked at the top of the comments. Apply to our housing security community leadership program today. From there, you will learn more about community. You can join a cohort of Bostonians with diverse lived experience on housing issues. Someone may have a similar issue, but because of where they live, because they may have, and Jaren, when you said that didn't just pass me a Black sounding name, which is so interesting. You'll also get growth, or you'll grow and engage with housing leaders to understand local systems and power structures. And most of all, and this is a key tenet and pillar of the Java Cafe, is impact, 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 impact. Not only will you be better educated and a better advocate, but you'll help create an action plan to promote housing justice in your organization and, more importantly, in your community. And so the link is hyperlinked there. You can click it if you're interested in attending. And I just want to go to Ross is in the building. What's up? I need to tell y'all, but Ross, stick around for a couple of seconds because I need folks to know who you are. But Heidi did also come and let us know that number, Jaren, was around 245K. That study of the $8 versus the 245K wealth gap. And so, Jaren, I really appreciate you, brother. Please give Gina my best. I saw her on Saturday, and she was like, something Monday, and I said, huh? And so again, apologies for not getting the flyer out, but folks, please. And I saw Mika on Saturday as well. Good to see you in the room, sis. But my apologies about that. But folks, if you know anybody that's dealing with housing insecurity, or anybody that you believe most everybody would benefit from taking the workshop, please share this. Please tag them, inbox them the link, and let them know that there's some information. There's a whole show available that talks about housing security. And you got to know Jaron a little bit here. You will see him in some other iteration, or as a guest in the Java Cafe in the next couple of months or so. We'll leave that. Can we just say a little bit that we are working to utilize a community-driven model to get to know candidates better? Is that a good way to frame it?
I love that. That's a good teaser. More to come. More to come. And Ross, also shout out to you for joining.
Absolutely.
One of our partners too.
Oh, so you know, all right. So I'll tell you while he's on screen. I don't know if you saw the post. But I actually just signed the actual contract, the middle part, the beginning of last week. And so I have space over at the old Globe building. Thanks to Ross and his relationship with him being at Mass Bio and Portal Innovations and Beacon Properties and Southline and whatnot. So Ross, I just wanted to publicly thank you since you're on this morning. Thank you so much, sir, for liaising and your support with that. And obviously, Jaron, you know Ross, and so that just speaks to the type of caliber of both of you. Y'all knowing each other, then I'm in great company.
Likewise. Feel the same here. Yeah, and as long as we're thanking Ross, I'll thank Ross. He invited Gina to do the workshop for at the Mass Bio conference last week, and so we're really grateful for that opportunity to kind of share some of what we do with your community, Ross. So thank you. Really appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you. And he's still in the room and got to hear all of it. And so, Ross, we definitely salute you, man. And I'm actually going to see you. Today's the 24th. I'm actually going to see you tomorrow. So, Ross, I'm looking forward to that. And Amika, again, good to see you in the room and good to see you on Saturday. Jared, I'll let you go. I got to get out of here. And I'm going down to, I guess, figure out how folks can take the boat ride from whatever hotel over to the NAACP convention. They were like, Jimmy, why don't you just come and take the boat ride with us? I was like, okay. Let's see what's going on. So I got to get down there. But Jaron, thank you. I'll make sure that I link. And if you can get me a JPEG of like the flyer, whatever, I'll make sure I put it on Twitter and on Facebook as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. And I'll follow up. I'll follow up this week from the other email.
Sounds good. Sounds good. More to come.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all.
Yeah. Listen, that was definitely, as Mika said, a very informative session. I was glad to have Jaron in the room to talk about this issue. It is Mental Health Monday. Just to park there a little bit, the Davis system and we're figuring out things. You'll see some changes coming up in September. I've mentioned it before, but now it's Davis system just does what they do. And so they're in the background getting some things together. But Mental Health Mondays is going to take a sort of different format. We're going to move back into the clinical space. But I thought it was important to have Jaron come today and talk about this workshop and talk about what's going on with this opportunity for folks to be educated around housing and housing security and stability. And I'll just say, well, I'll leave that alone. I'll behave. Ross has said the response has been tremendous. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, man. So glad to see you in the room this morning, sir. I am honored. I'm going to get ready to get off of here, folks. I might go live there. The convention center and a lot of folks are working to ensure that there's transportation equity in different ways that folks can get to the seaport for the upcoming this week NAACP convention. And so folks reached out and said, hey, you want to come and take the boat ride with a couple of folks? I was like, sure, let's go and see. So I'm about to go put something in my stomach real quick, make sure I don't get queasy out there, and go check that out. So I might go live, I'm not sure, but the way that you can always know when I go live is when the opportunity on Facebook presents itself and says, hey, get notified when Java goes live. Hit that. All right. Selfish or selfless plug there. But Everybody have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you so much for being in the room with us this morning. Please share this information with everyone. Leslie, look out for an email about a location for tomorrow, and also some words to the songs that we're doing. And I will see everybody tomorrow, if not later on today, from the NAACP transportation waterway boat ride thingy. I don't know. We'll see you guys either later or tomorrow at 9 a.m. Peace, everybody. Talk to you soon.